Welcome to the Pastor Study here on Smooth 88.1 WHOV iHeartRadio. Right here, y'all, on Facebook Live. Y'all, we in the holiday season now. You know, everybody should be happy, feeling good. And we don't have the ladies with us today, unfortunately. I'll start with Alvian Lyons, Dr. Alvian Lyons, doctor. Y'all say a prayer for her. She's not feeling well. It's not COVID, y'all. You know, in this time of season, you know, people get sick now. You got to clarify, right? You got to tell people it ain't COVID. She just ain't feeling well. You know, it's not COVID, though. She's going to be fine. And then Delegate Marcia Price, she's out taking care of her day job and doing her business. But we got the fellas in here. You know, when it's just the fellas, we do it barbershop style. We just talk about a number of issues that we're going to do today. Commonwealth Attorney, City of Hampton, Anton Bell is with us. Hope you're doing well, sir. We got Bishop Ray Johnson of Dominion Outreach. What's up, man? Hope you're doing well. Producer extraordinaire, Jason Covington. Hope you're doing well, sir. And so, like I said, it's just the fellas today. And so we're going to do it like we do it when we in the barbershop. You know, in the barbershop, you talk about everything. And that's what we're going to do. So, Bishop, I'm going to start with you because you weren't with us last week and we got into Deion Sanders. And I know you also being a former student athlete like me, I know you wanted to chime in on this. And, for those who don't know, we talked about the fact that Deion left Jackson State to take a head coaching job at Colorado University. He's leaving a HBCU where he went 27-5 in his 3 seasons in the SWAC championship, again for the second straight year. And Colorado offered him the head coaching job. Many people are divided on how they should feel about it. And so, Bishop, I want to give you an opportunity to share your viewpoints before we go to the next topic.
Well, you know, I was with both. Of course, y'all know I'm both in on this topic and on most topics. It just is what it is. But I agree with Ton, and I agree with Alvian, and I agreed a little bit with what Marcia was saying. But here's my view about this. What else does Deion have to do? That's my main point. What else does he have to do at Jackson State? I mean, when you look at the fact of the endorsement deals that came to all HBCUs because he was present, I agree with you when you said that he never said that he was there to have an impact on all HBCUs. He was there to do his job at Jackson State. He wins 2 out of 3 SWAC championships. And then you look at all of the extra things that happen as a result of his presence being there. So when it comes to just the straight up, you know, part of him being an athlete and then a coach going, I believe is what, 27-5 is what his record was. I mean, that is absolutely outstanding. You don't have Power 5 school coaches who have a record like that. And then to be able to recruit Power 5 athletes to be able to come to an HBCU, that shows his relatability and his connectivity with children. And then dealing with the community issues that were there inside of Jackson. I mean, what else can you expect from him in regards to what he has offered and what he has brought? Now, we all understand and know, like he said, either you are going to be promoted or you're going to be fired. And so this was an opportunity for him to be able to leave on top of his game. And then I looked at, for me, I think this isn't so much about him as it is his son. And when he stated very clearly that his son was going to be the starting quarterback, and when you look at his son's passer rating, completion rate within inside of what he did over the last 2 years, leaving from South Carolina to come to Jackson State to be with his father and to be coached by him. I think the young man is 6'6", has got great feet, runs a 4.5 40. I mean, the boy can throw a tight sparrow 50 yards on a dime. And so for him to have exposure, this is a great opportunity for him. But then here's the part that really got me about why I agree with the fact that he should have left. And that is this. He talked about 66 scholarship athletes that are there at the University of Colorado. When you consider that predominantly most college athletes in football or basketball are going to be African-American. And so here he has an opportunity to be able to recruit from the West Coast, anything, and from the Midwest, everything from Houston through coming around into California, coming up through Las Vegas to come to the University of Colorado, and his opportunity to have mentorship programs for these young men, to create opportunity for them to be able to go pro or to ensure that they finish their degrees. That's a very, very, very important thing for Deion. And I think at Jackson, he had a 90% success rate of students graduating from the program. I think that is just absolutely outstanding. Why wouldn't you want to have that on a greater level? My last point about this, Pastor Swan, is to your point when you talked about, when you were leaving Central Connecticut, I was coming into the University of Maine. And what it did for me was this. Looking at the fact that when you play inside of tournament time, and for us, it was the Metroplex in Maine, 10,000 seat arena, looking at $25 to $10 a student, and then $25 alumni, $30 for those who are around in the surrounding community, everywhere from Bangor through Presque Isle. So it'll be nothing for us to play in front of 6,000 to 7,000 people come playoff time. And like you, watching your jersey at ODU inside of the bookstore, and none of those proceeds come to you. And when you look at what the economies of scale of that is, just consider for a moment what it costs to go to the university. My scholarship was, you and I, when we signed, we were $60,000 to $90,000, all the expenses paid. These young men are a lot like that today. And when you leverage what the university makes versus what they give us in terms of scholarship money to include, books, tuition, grant, aid, all of that, it pales in comparison. I say that to say the $300,000 that Deion is getting, $150,000 he gets back, to Alvian's point of $5 million, whereby which he can do more with that money. There's no way you turn down that opportunity. Absolutely not. And I get the structural, systemic racism ideas and all of that. But like you all talked about, you can have all the great ideas in the world that you want. And I could go left, Pastor Swan, with me and you, tons of stuff we would love to do in our African-American communities, but budget is always an issue, no matter how you slice it. So the brother's going to have more individual money personally to do more, and he's going to be in a high profile position. And I want to see him. This is my personal pet peeve about this, and I'll stop right here. I want to see
that's
him.
about a 20-minute monologue, bro.
I wasn't here last week. I wasn't here last week. I'm still in the chair.
It's like a 20-minute monologue. Can you in your point?
Getting my hair cut right now. You wait until your number call. Wait a minute.
I'm just saying. You like the brother that don't need a haircut, sitting in the chair, and you need a haircut right now, and you waiting on that joker. Get your haircut.
This is my last point, and that is this. I want to see him win. I don't know if it's the Pac-10 or Pac-12 now. I want to see him win the Pac-12, and I want to see him be one of the top 4 or 5 teams, and I want to see him go head up with Nick Saban. I want to see that.
Yeah, and I think Bishop, that's what a lot of HBCU alums wanted as well, for him to do it at Jackson State, right? To be able to bring up the HBCU schools to go toe-to-toe with the Power 5 schools. I think that was the ultimate dream for a lot of people who are HBCU alums. And I think for you and I who have been in the college athletic landscape, we understand there's a huge disparity financially speaking between the two. Power 5 schools, for those who don't know, those are the largest colleges and universities across the nation. They're the ones that typically have the greatest television revenue and other means of revenue streams that most colleges simply don't have. Right. So you have the Power 5, which are predominantly white. Colorado University's in that Power 5. The next tier is the mid-major programs, which you could argue Hampton University, North Carolina A&T, Florida A&M, Jackson State could be in that middle tier. And then the rest are like your Division II, Division III type programs. And the difference in budget is astronomically different between each level. So yeah, we could be talking about
not even close.
Not even close. So Todd, since you did put him on a timer, man, and told him his time was up, man, would you like to respond to Bishop's comment, man? What did you think about what he said, man?
He said it all. I mean,
He's working on my fade, man. The dude working on my fade.
What else is there to say, man? I'm just saying, he just said it all. So, I passed. He just said it all. Go ahead to the next person.
An attorney that passed.
Jay, like the old for he got all the meat off that chicken bowl, Jay. He got it all. Is there anything left, Jay? You want to say anything?
He stopped up the gravy with the biscuit and everything. I mean, I agree with him. I mean, Dion, I support Dion. If a certain pastor from Dallas, Texas calls me, all you know is when you call me, my phone will say woo woo woo. I'm in Dallas. I'm in Oklahoma. But that pastor's not gonna spit on me though. He is not gonna spit on me. That's all I'm gonna say.
But those two references don't equate to the story because you're referencing two black pastors. Now, the question would be if a large, predominantly white church called you in Dallas or Oklahoma, would the black church community consider you to be wrong for leaving?
Well, I mean, gotta be careful. While a larger white church that called me, I do serve at a predominantly white church, and some of the backlash I got when I left the black church was like, you leaving us, you Uncle Tom, and all the other kind of things. But kind of like what Dion said, because it was during the pandemic, it was so many of my friends that looked just like me. All I had was music, so there were opportunities where I could bring them in to do things, whether it was music or was other artsy type things, or even consultation work. Because I believe that, the people you come up with that have good sense, you bring them to the table with you. But I could not have done that. No shade. In the African American church, finances, people don't give unless they really come to church. And in the predominantly white church, that's not how it is. So I felt that backlash. I had to make that decision for me and my family, and I wouldn't second guess it. I'll do it again tomorrow if it was offered to me. But you have to do what's best for you and your family, and I believe Dion did that, just like I did.
Yeah, and Anton, let me say this before we move on to the next subject. Let me ask you a question unrelated to Bishop, since he took it all, right? So, but on a wider scale, does it seem like within our community that when anyone, Dion or anyone, Jason just described it in his own scenario, where an African-American is leaving the African-American community to go to another community, it seems that in some cases is usually met with some measure of vitriol, for lack of a better term, from our community, right? Like, you're leaving us to go on the other side. Do you agree with that statement, or do you see it a different way?
I think it's mixed, but you will see the loudness of the backlash more so than the congratulation. And the reason I think that is because it's based in trauma. When you said it already, you're leaving us. And so for the African-American community, you got to realize we have a history of trauma on top of trauma. And so when you have a person who is a face of an organization, a face of a movement, because Dion was beyond just Jackson State. Dion was HBCU. And so he became the face of advancement for HBCUs. And so for him to leave, it wasn't just you're leaving Jackson State, you're leaving us. And so being the fact that we have always been treated as second best or second rated, and sometimes based upon the Constitution when it was initially written, not even a full person. So as a result of that, we tend to take it personal, because we're looking at the fact that here we go again, you thinking is better on the other side than it is within your own community or within your own village. So it is a personal slight versus just someone trying to achieve or someone trying to gain generational wealth. Because when you start talking about $5 million, that's a game changer. You're talking about generational wealth. And so it's just beyond just you. You're talking about impacting your grandchildren and so forth based upon how well you are able to steward that salary. So I think it's a mixture, but what you're hearing the loudest is the hurt, because it's based in trauma. I really believe it.
So then saying that and Jason already mentioned it. It's not even at the Dion level. Even Jason experienced some measure response to you're leaving us.
You're leaving us.
But could it be, I'm just playing the other side for radio. Could
Okay.
it be that maybe I'm going over here so that I could create other opportunities for us in ways that we don't have it within our own community? Because the other truth to this is, while we don't want people to leave us, we also don't support us. Right? So now how are we going to deal with that piece of it? Right? So you want me to stay, but you don't support me. But then you don't want me to leave either. So how do we make sense of that, man? Because again, it could be that if we had certain people to go other places, they could be Harriet Tubmans, as I call them. They could help open doors of opportunity and freedom for all of us to walk through. But when we try to all stick together, which I understand that, but we don't always support each other when we stick together, then how can we win?
Okay, so America is a selfish nation. Can I just go ahead and put that out there?
Put it out there, man.
America is just a selfish nation. You know, it's every man for himself, every household for himself. And so when you have individuals who do have good hearts, who do want to do right, who do want to give back, unfortunately, when they make decisions that is not necessarily popular with the community that they're trying to serve, that very same community will turn right around and will jump on you and will criticize you and will dog you out and sometimes push you away. So I remember when I first got elected, the great Will Moffitt, the late great Will Moffitt, he told me at a ceremony, I was getting an award for community service. And he said to me, and it came out the blue, we were sitting at the same table, and he said, today they're screaming, Hosanna, Hosanna. Tomorrow they'll be screaming what? And I said, crucify. And he said, today they're screaming, Hosanna. Tomorrow they'll be screaming. And I said, crucify. And he said, don't you ever forget that. And in other words, what he was trying to teach me at a very young time in my political life was the very same people that'll praise you will be the very same people that'll dog you out. So don't get caught up on the affirmation, because affirmation will not always be there. And so you got to have your affirmation in God. Can I preach for a second? You got to get your affirmation from God. You got to get your okay, your green light, your confirmation for whatever God has called you to do, whatever the vision he's placed in your life, whatever the assignment and the duty that you're supposed to do. You got to make sure you got a word from him. Because if you're looking for people, and I almost said something else, but if you're looking for people to give you the affirmation that you want, and you're looking for people to push you and hooray you or whatever, they sometime it. And I said it, and I said what I said. They sometime it. They will love on you 1 minute and then turn around and criticize you the next minute. And I'm not talking about criticize you saying, I disagree with your decision. I'm talking about call you out your name, call you out your character, and act like you never did a good thing ever in your life. I'm talking about Negroes were at the food. So all I'm saying is this: get your affirmation from God. That's all I'm done.
So really then it's not a black thing. Really then it's, if you're making a parallel with what you talked about, Hosanna on Palm Sunday, crucify him on Good Friday, 5 days apart. What it really is I rock with you as long as you support my agenda.
There you go.
And what I expect of you.
There you
go.
But
once you change your agenda and your agenda don't match mine,
come on.
Now you got to go. You're a sellout. You're wrong. I can't deal with you. I got to cancel you. Yes. And that really is the mentality that we're dealing with here. Because could it have been that maybe some people had their own personal expectations of Dion that he didn't have for himself? And because he decided to go a different route, folks is up in arms.
Now, Kev, just so that we can put this caveat out there, that's not everyone. Please, listening.
Of course, that's not everyone.
Please know that there are some genuine people who will be ride or die because they see what God has placed in you and they know the character that you have, and they will be ride or die, and they will support you. They will pray for you. They will call you up and encourage you the whole night. And God has placed those type of people in all of our lives. So there are those individuals, and I thank God for them. But the masses is what we're talking about, right? We're talking about the masses, the people who don't know you intimately, the ones who think they know you because they saw you on TV or heard you on the radio or saw you preach a sermon in the pulpit. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Yeah, those individuals right there who think they know you and they don't know you. All they know is what they've seen, but they don't know what you do behind closed doors. They don't know your relationship with God. They don't know your relationship with your family. They don't know the things that you do in secret places where the camera is not there and the radio mic is nowhere to be found. They don't know about any of that stuff, but they'll judge you based upon what they see publicly. And sometimes they'll judge you based upon what someone else told them. And they so trifling and lazy to go do their own homework and research to find out for themselves. I'm just saying.
No, you're saying it right. And at the end of the day, it is, most people like to put people in boxes and they want you to stay in the box. And if you don't fit the box or you decide that you don't want to stay in the box any longer, then now their opinion of you may change. And again, we're not talking about everybody, but we are talking about a few. Jason, you just experienced that. So let's jump off of this. We're gonna put a bow on Dion, but if you got any other further comments, drop it in the chat, Pastor Study Facebook page. We'd love to hear from you. There's some other big news, and this is what the Barbershop does. You know, you don't stay on one topic, you know. Because Ray, you getting your fade right now. We're about to line you up. You know, you got to talk about many different things, you know. And the next big issue is Brittany Griner. And for those who don't know, Brittany Griner, WNBA All-Star, was playing in Russia. We've done a show on this several times as well. She was detained in Russia for several months, and she was recently released. There was a prisoner swap for Victor Bout, who is a known arms dealer who has been detained here in America. And so Brittany was arrested on some charges that were questionable, but nevertheless, there were some marijuana charges that she was brought up on, which is illegal in Russia. And so she was there for, I believe, 9 months. So Bishop Ray, first of all, to start with you, what was your initial reaction over the news that Brittany Griner was actually freed and released from Russia?
Well, I first saw it on social media, and so immediately I went to the news affiliates, you know, online to look and see. And so, you know, like most people, I was excited and I was saying, you know, here she is being detained, and I can't remember all the ounces, but I believe it was in liquid format for what she was, you know, incarcerated for over there in Russia. And so I was excited to see her come home until I saw about, you know, the nuclear arms dealer being released in this swap. And I'm thinking to myself, we let, you know, the United States let a nuclear arms dealer go back to what could be considered our arch enemy one in Russia, and then maybe Iran in the Middle East two. You're going to let him go back home without any kind of supervision, no kind of continued watchful eye in a legal format to be able to watch his activity with Russia. We don't know what could happen. And then you're already dealing with a world that's highly volatile right now with what's taking place with Ukraine and Russia. I mean, you know, as much as I want to see the sister come home, I'm more concerned about national security issues with this individual being set free. The second part of that would be this for me, and that is, this was purely political. The timing whereby which this happened and took place, the Democratic Party needs a win-win, if you will, among us as African-American people coming around, seeing that Trump has officially announced his candidacy to run for, you know, the presidency, if should nothing happen with him in terms of him being indicted. You know, this to me was purely a political decision. So I don't necessarily put too much stock in it in that sense. It's good that she's making her way back home, but the rationale and reasons for doing so, I don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah, so Jason, let me come to you. I'm gonna save time because I know Tom is passionate about this, and I want to come to you because, you know, there are some mixed reviews about this. You know, some people in the Black community are celebrating it, saying, "Hey, finally America stood up for a Black woman," and to take it a step further, a Black gay woman, which we know is a part of this whole conversation. And so there are a lot of people who are supporting that. There are a lot of people who are like Bishop Ray saying, did we offer too much for her release? Where do you stand on this, Jay?
At the risk of being canceled, I agree with Pastor Bishop Ray. I believe she should have been released. But to let, no shade, a ball player go, and you let a nuclear arms dealer go back, not just to Nevada or to California, back to Mother Russia, and we don't think it's gonna be any consequence for that. We don't think that. So again, it's one life. I'm conflicted. I'm glad she's home. I'm glad she's with her relatives and her family, especially for the holidays. I think, but you also gotta know the laws of where you go. When I travel, I have a firearm. But when I'm going to Maryland or New York, I can't take my firearm with me because if I get pulled over, I'm going to jail. I have to accept that fact. So while we're saying, Russia was messed up, you got to know where you're going so you won't get caught up. So I think, and ignorance is no, Anton can, say it better than I, ignorance is not an exception for the law. So if the law is what the law is, it is what it is. But I personally, I'm glad she's home, but I don't agree with the trade. Because we have a Marine still over there that's not a spy, that's been over there for 4 years, and other people that's over there in Russia. I agree with Bishop. Again, I hate to say it, I agree with Bishop Ray. All this was political. It was the them needed to win, and they got to win, but at what cost? I pray God keeps us safe.
So if you're just tuning in, we're having a host of different conversations and topics today. Right now, we're talking about Brittany Griner and her release from Russian prison, a Russian penal colony, where she served for multiple months in exchange for Victor Bout, who was a known nuclear arms dealer. So far, surprisingly, Bishop Ray and Jason said we gave up too much. Most, is split on this. I'm sure if the ladies were here, I'm sure they may have a different take on this as well. But since they're not here, we get to say what we want. So, Anton, where do you stand, sir, on this? How do you feel about her release?
I got to make it unanimous. Yes, Bishop, I am agreeing with you. But it's what it is. Okay, so let's just unpeel this. So you have an individual, an American, that goes into a foreign country and they take what they believe is legal because of where they come from, but not understanding that where they are, it is not legal. And so I believe she was detained for political reasons. I believe that she was held as long as she was held for political reasons. We had already intensified the whole Ukrainian Russia conflict that was going on at the time. No one had fired anything at that time, but it had escalated to the point where it was about to happen. And the United States had made it quite clear our position. And so I believe that she was somewhat of a scapegoat, or she was a scapegoat, not somewhat, she was a scapegoat. Putin was mad and he said, okay, I'm gonna make you pay. So I believe detaining her the way they detained her was absolutely wrong. I think it was just, basically, I'm gonna fix you. And so she got the short end of the stick. So I'm happy that she did get released, and I'm happy that she is here now I believe she's here on American grounds. The problem that I have, like the other two, is that we gave up a nuclear arms dealer, a mass murderer for drugs. Nah, I'm sorry, can't do that. Cannot do that. And I know a lot of people will be saying, well, it was wrong, that they were holding her. It may be wrong, but you know what? Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. But I'm not going to give up someone who is going to be a potential risk to our national security for what is a celebrity. And because she has celebrity status. And I don't care who that celebrity is. So let me make that clear. It could have been Tom Cruise. It could have been You named Dolly Parton, you know, everybody like Dolly Parton. It could have been Dolly Parton. Dolly, you and your wigs and all that comes along with it, you would have been over there in Russia. I'm sorry. It's just the way it's going to be. I'm sorry, Dolly. It's just wrong. It's wrong.
Not
wrong.
Dolly. You can't do that to Dolly, Don. Not Dolly.
Saying, Dolly would have been stuck in Russia. Can I just tell you that?
What if it was Jordan? If it was Jordan, if it was Mike Jordan,
he would have been stuck in Russia. I don't care who it is. You would have been stuck. You would have been stuck.
So let me stuck.
You would have been stuck. I'm just saying.
Let me play the other side for just a moment.
Don't play it, because you still would have been stuck. Kev, you would have been stuck. I'd have been over here crying because that's my brother that's stuck over in Russia. But Kev, you would have been stuck, bro. Because I'm sorry. I ain't letting him go. I ain't letting him go. He would have been gone. We'd have been
I want to ask you the question from a media standpoint, not from the decision. Because you're right, Paul Whelan is still detained in Russia, right? And he's been there longer than Brittany Griner was there. Now, to be fair, Russia made the choice to enter into an agreement with America for Brittany Griner. They were not willing to do that for Paul Whelan.
No.
Right? Okay. So
you know why don't you? You know why don't? Because he's media. So I can get something much bigger than just this nuclear arms dealer. So basically what I did is I swapped out a celebrity who y'all really, really wanted, and everybody was making a lot of noise about her and was protesting and all that comes along with it. I was able to basically get a steal. I stole from y'all, because that deal is a steal. Get this joker, because later on, when I really, really want something, now we could talk about Wheeler. So no, he's a little bit, he's a heavyweight. So he's someone that we really, really needed and we really, really wanted. And so I'm just sorry. It's just what it is.
But I think the difference is, and this is what I was trying to raise. Do you think, at least for me, the difference is most people didn't even know about Paul Whelan.
Right.
But most people did know about Brittany Griner because
she's a celebrity.
That and the constant media attention that came with it, right? So the real question here for me is, and I'm asking, do you think that that is a way to provoke change in our country, right? That we got to keep things in the forefront of media.
Rolling my eyes at all, y'all. Because let me tell you something. The media is biased. They portray the narrative that they want to portray whenever it's convenient to them.
So what was the line here for Brittany? What was the media line here for them?
No. I didn't say they were a liar. I said they're
the line.
The line on this you already said. You already said the line. Black, female, gay.
Okay, go ahead.
Politics. It's pure politics. So when it comes election time, the Democrats are going to be able to say for what their base is, black, female, gay. We got her out. Y'all got to come vote for us. That's what this is about right here.
And let's jump on top of that. And as an African American myself, yes, I'm happy that for once we got the long end of the stick, so to speak. That we were considered first as a priority over what has normally been our history, which is white male. So as an African American, of course, you're going to applaud that. But as a person that understands law, that practice law, and that prosecute wrongdoers, I'm sorry, I got to call it the way it is. It was not a good deal. Unfortunately, you know, she was in that situation, and unfortunately, it was not something that she should have been in the sense of they held on to her because they wanted to get back at the United States. So unfortunately, she was a scapegoat. However, Wheeler is a scapegoat too. Let's just call it like it is. He's just a white male and he doesn't have celebrity status. And then two, let's call it like it is. We're talking about drugs. In most states, which would have been a misdemeanor. And we let loose a mass murderer. Really? For someone who got caught with drugs, that would have been a misdemeanor in most states? Nah.
So what do you say to the Black LGBTQ community?
I ain't got to say nothing to them, because guess what? It's my opinion. It's what I feel, and I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. Just like they're gonna say what they want to say. That's the problem. Can I just go ahead and say this for a second? The problem is this. Everybody always talking about free speech until you say something that they don't like.
I agree with, right?
That you don't agree with. And so it's not that I'm saying something, because here's the thing. I don't have any issue with her
orientation, right?
Her orientation or her gender or anything else. Because like I told you, it could have been Tom Cruise. It could have been Dolly Parton. It could have been whoever. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You are a celebrity. I would have treated you as such. It doesn't matter to me what your color, your race, your economic status, all of that doesn't matter to me. See, I don't have the luxury of emotions. I think I've said this before. In my position, I don't have the luxury of emotions. I don't have the luxury of making decisions based on my emotions. I can only make decisions based on law and fact. And so, unfortunately, sometimes it don't swing the way that you may want it to swing when the law is what it is. You don't like the law, change the law. But when the law is what it is, it's what it is. And so, I'm sorry, I don't have anything to say to anyone, to be quite honest with you, because the reality of it is, it's my opinion. And so I said what I said.
Thank you, Anton. Put yourself on mute for a minute, all right? Because I didn't even get a chance to finish my statement. So Bishop, I'm gonna ask you, what do you say in your responses, the three of you, to the Black LGBTQ community who would argue this is the first time that we have seen a support of, especially a woman who is Black and in the LGBTQ community, because all of you are saying basically, if you were Biden, she would still be there. You wouldn't have made the deal, right? So how do you respond to that community who says this is a huge win for us?
I would have the perspective of the potentiality of what could take place, and I would respond this way. If New York, DC, Charlotte, Atlanta, Jacksonville catch on fire because this dude is free, would it have been worth it? And the reason I mention that is because the majority of us as African Americans, we tend to live inside of an urban context in central cities of America. So if you will allow Philadelphia, Richmond, Baltimore, I keep going. If those cities are hit with nuclear warfare, because this dude has gotten free and he's a part of the planning process or whatever takes place with this, would it have been worth it then? At that point, we all are yelling and hollering and screaming and everybody run for cover, hide your kids, hide your wife, get underneath, get in the bunkers, all that kind of stuff. It goes back to what Tom said earlier. People want what they want when they want it. And what you've got to think about is the national security issues. We live here inside of this context of America. Yes, as a Black man, I'm happy to see that at some point, politically speaking, that we have become the priority, okay? So, but at the risk of putting your children in danger with a known, this ain't somebody who is alleged, this is a known nuclear arms dealer. He would sell you out in a minute. And just think of the relationship between Iran right now and Russia. Who is supplying Russia right now, allegedly so, with some of the warfare that's happening with Ukraine? And you're gonna let this go? Look, I'm trying to breathe non-toxic air. That's what I'm trying to do.
Hey, Kev, just can I put a pin in that? So you got to ask yourself the question. Let's just objectively look at this. You got to ask yourself the question. There is a reason why Russia wanted him. That's all I'm going to say. Let that marinate for a second. There is a reason why Russia wanted him in particular.
So for the purposes of radio, if they'd have wanted him a long time ago, couldn't they have made a deal for Paul Whelan and
not
him
enough media attention
to get out?
Not enough media attention. You gotta have somebody that has the weight. Now, we agree that Whelan, I agree with Anton, Whelan is a bigger fish, but they're holding on to Whelan for something greater down the line. This is like getting a 3-star general versus a 5-star general. You want the 5-star, but the 3-star is the next step to getting the 5-star. So let me see if I can't be able to move my pieces on the chessboard to be able to get everything I want, so I can really set it off. And this dude is key to that.
So Jason, how do you respond to this, man? Because part of this story for me is similar, not quite exactly, but similar to the OJ trial, where in both cases, most people may have felt like OJ did something. In this case, we know Brittany Griner admitted guilt. She admitted that she broke the law, but still wanted, in both cases, our community wanted to see both of them free. So how do we reconcile them? Because we know that our people, we say, historically have been oppressed. We've been subjects of a biased legal system, and we have had things go against us for years. And maybe now this was one of the few times that it worked in our favor. But we're hearing today that the deal shouldn't have been done. How do you respond to that, Jay?
I mean, I look at, across the room, look at my son. The deal is the deal worth my son's life? Because that's essentially what we're talking about. I know it's a raw deal. Oftentimes, African Americans, we get the raw deal, and we celebrate. At least this time, we got, they did right by us. They did right by us. And again, I just repeat the same thing because I have to take a long time to answer this. We let a known, not alleged, not somebody think, a known mass murderer and hater of America that who locked up for 11 years. Again, it was sad that it happened, with Brittany. But it's a rough place to be in because you want to be happy that she's home and that they finally listen to us. But are they listening to us? Or was this another token? That's what you gotta think about. Like, were they just trying to do something? Because in politics, they never do anything without looking for something back. The quid pro quo, that's the thing. I do for you because you can do for me. This is what this is. They needed the black vote. They want us to see that they care about us. They give us the Brittany, and now it's not so much a black woman, it's a black gay woman. So now you are hitting so many populations. So I don't think, number one, the motives weren't right. So it is what it is.
So what I think would be, go ahead, Tom.
Now can I piggyback on what we talked about with Dion in this scenario as well? So I voted for Biden, I campaigned for Biden, and Biden made this decision. Now, in our community, the masses that we talked about earlier, you will have people who disagree with this decision and say, cancel Biden. He's bad, he's this, he's that. I still support him. I still would have voted for him, even with this decision, because here's the thing, because you disagree with someone on one particular issue or disagree with someone on one particular area doesn't mean that you cancel that person all out together. So I'm still ride or die with him. I'm still glad he's my president. When I go to the pumps and get my gas, I'm glad he's president. So I'm just letting y'all know. I'm just saying, I'm still all day Biden, but I just would not have given up this guy for Brittany Griner. That's my point I'm making.
Yeah, and we know how these stories can be highly politicized. And before we go to our last topic, I just can't imagine what Brittany's life may be like now, because she's going to be for the rest of her life a very polarizing figure. Especially, Bishop, to your point, if something ever happens to our country because of this guy that got released, everybody's going to be pointing their finger at Brittany, saying you were the one that caused this. So that's going to be a weight, y'all, that probably we have no idea, can imagine that she might be dealing with. So, but let's get to our last topic. This is the Pastor Study Radio Show. So we talk about all things, but we also talk about things in the church. And one thing that came out recently, Bishop, one of our contemporaries, Pastor Jamal Bryant of New Birth Church down in
he took his camera
back on.
He came out and he was on an interview and having a report, and he talked about the fact that he wanted some young men to come to his church that, and I quote, that smell like weed. That he explained that New Birth has the largest land mass of any Black church in America. And he wants to use that land as an opportunity to grow marijuana and be able to teach young Black men how to farm it properly, how to grow it, how to make it a business because it is now legal. And he also believes that in using marijuana and showing people how to do the business side of it, which is, by the way, becoming a very lucrative business. And also, by the way, minorities are disproportionately not involved in that yet. He sees this as an opportunity.
Not legally.
Not legally, right. He sees this as a chance for Black people to enter into the cannabis industry, and he sees it as an opportunity for Black men to look at church from a different perspective. So, Bishop, what do you say to all of this?
I'm just, I'm shaking my head. I'm just shaking my head, man. I just, I'm right there with Paul. Although all things are lawful for me, but not all things are, are for my good or expedient for me. And I'm just going and Jamal is not he's not an unlearned preacher. He's not an unlearned, unexposed cleric. But with this one, we just, I can't even get my words out. We can't take no more hits. We just, as clergymen in America and around the world, given the culture and the climate of today, we cannot take any more hits to allow our words to be misconstrued. Now, I understand where he's trying to come from with evangelism, access to Black men, but you don't lower the standard. The standard of sanctification and holiness is the same for everybody across the board. And yeah, I want to see brothers have jobs. I want to see brothers be able to go into business for themselves. But this particular area is such a hot topic area because now you're putting yourself right smack dab in the middle of the scripture. And what did Paul do with Simon the sorcerer? When you look at what his control was over the city of Ephesus that he was in. And Paul just, that's pharmakeia right there in the elated mind state. He had to deal with Simon and shut it all down and the reason they went at him, I'm right there in Acts chapter 16, they went at Paul is because they started losing money. So you can't play the devil's game at the same time and think you're going to beat him at his own game. It ain't going to work like that. And the last part of it is we just, we can't take no more hits. And I'm so glad. I would never say this on the air, but I'm so glad Albie you're not on the show today because we all preachers would get crucified right now. It'll be over with right now. So I like the idea, but you got to say it a different way because I don't think he was advocating for brothers to come to church to buy weed and learn how to smoke it. That's not necessarily what he was saying. He was really focused in on, he wants people to come to church that smell like weed. I want people to come to church that smell like weed because I want them to get the gospel so that they can be transformed. Mm-hmm. So as a result of transformation, now they lose the habit. Okay. Right. That's where he was going. And then let me just get this in 30 seconds. Money can make us say and do things that we don't necessarily mean. It's public knowledge. There was $30 million worth of debt on the land, building, properties, and assets when he came to New Birth. It's down to 15 million, making its way close now, somewhere between 11 and 14. He's trying to get the rest of the debt out. I understand what's driving the brother. So, but you can't serve mammon and God. You just, anyway.
So Tom, let me play the other side for radio. Get your thoughts. Pastor Jamal Bryant, even before he got to New Birth, has always been socially conscious. Social justice has always been his platform since his days with the NAACP. What we know is that whether believers like this or not, gambling is now legal in our country. Everywhere, not just Vegas. Marijuana, for the most part, is legal now everywhere in our country. Young people look at marijuana with more favor than they do tobacco or alcohol. They don't see the big deal. if we know that churches are losing members, could this potentially be an opportunity for that generation who doesn't know God and they don't go to church, but they know weed? Could it be an opportunity for the church in some way to expose or introduce them to Christ while helping them to learn how to officially, not under the table, know how to run a business?
Jesus said, if I be lifted up, I'll draw all men unto me. If I be lifted up, I'll draw all men unto me. So here's the thing. So often the church gets caught up in lifting up worldly principles, worldly ideas, worldly creations, and we will interweave it into the fabric of our churchism. And so as a result of that, you can't tell the church from the world. And so we're wondering why people are like, well, why am I coming to church? I can go to the club because I see the same people in the club that I see in the church. I can go to the club because the same people that's trying to hit on me at the club, when I go to church, they hitting on me at the church, hold to the pulpit. So I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I know. You know I'm gonna take my shot. So I'm just saying. Look, if we want people to be drawn to God, forget the church, drawn to God, then the people who's supposed to be the church need to start walking in the principles and walking in the transformation of the real church of the living God. He's not dead. He is alive. He is risen. We have power. We have anointing, and we act like we don't. And so the reality of it is this. You could go along with all the things that you see in the world, but just don't get mad when you get the consequences of the world, because the wages of sin is death. And trust me, when you start playing with the devil gonna show you who he really is.
All right, Jay, we coming close to time, man. What's your thoughts on this? Again, you're the youngest of the bunch. Your generation and younger is much more open and accepting and tolerant of marijuana. And let's just be honest, even before it was legal, Ray, Bishop, a lot of people in the church was smoking weed before it became legal. Right? So let's not forget that. So Jay, what do you think about all this, man?
I only need 45 seconds, so we got 3 minutes. Here's my thing, people are gonna be mad. Where's the line? If weed is legal, like Paul said, whatever's lawful is not always expedient. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Let's go with this. Let's say weed bring the people in church. So does sex. Sex bring. So now we got a brothel in the baptism pool. I mean, hey, if we want people to come and then let Jesus clean them up, let's bring the hoes. Like Anton just said, bring the hoes back to the pulpit. Let them have their orgies. Or let's have a bar. Let's start selling cigarettes. Let's start giving out condoms. Let's do all that stuff in the church. Now, some of the stuff, whatever. But all I'm saying is, like I tell me and my wife talk all the time. When you open the door for your kids to do one thing, they gonna say, "Well, Daddy, you said." Now, like Anton said, now the Bible sometimes the people like it's going out of style, but the Holy Writ says, "The wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life." Anton said, if I be lifted, I draw all men unto me. If Jesus is the remedy, why are we looking for other things? We need to be innovative, but be innovative in the word. Don't be innovative. Listen, money come and go. If you bring the weed in here, go ahead and bring the girls in here naked too. Everybody having free fall. Let's do it.
You said P Valley, Jay. P Valley.
I mean, if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. Bring the weed, bring the girls, bring the alcohol.
See, the problem is, and Kevin, you already said it. You said, let's keep it real. Many people are already smoking weed that's in the church, and that's the problem. The problem is there's compromise in the church. And if we're looking for there to be some level of impact to the world, then the church got to stop being the world. That's just the bottom line. He said, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. The Spirit of the Lord ain't going to be among compromise. The Spirit of the Lord is not going to be among those who are acting like the church, but they living like the world. It's not going to happen. You just need the Spirit of the Lord. That's all I'm saying.
I say this and I'm gone. Didn't Jesus come in and turn up the temple because they were out here being merchant?
It up.
I'm not going to your church. I'm not coming to your church.
He flipped the tables, Doc.
Well, Tom, we got to go because we got 1 minute, but I would tell you, Tom, I am proud of you because you've been quoting New Testament scriptures.
Left and right.
You stayed in New Testament today, Tom. I don't know how to act. You know, we just gonna end on that right there. We gonna end on that right there because I would like to make some further comments, but the fact that he said if I be lifted up and turning the tables over, he knew that it was New Testament. Lord have mercy. Ain't nothing else to say. Maybe Jesus coming back tonight. I don't know what's going on, but we got to go. We got to go. We out of time. Great show, y'all. We love the barbershop talk, and we can talk real in here in the barbershop. We got to run. Until next time, be blessed and be a blessing to someone else. This is Smooth 88.1 WHOV iHeart Radio, right here, y'all, on Facebook Live.